Hey everyone, welcome to the College Football Rundown. I'm Woj.
And I'm Wahl.
And what a hell of a game! What's some hell of a games last week, huh, Wall?
Oh, they're very exciting, Woj. I was so happy college football was started running, getting going. I was happy, baby.
Yeah, specifically that Oregon Auburn game was pretty fun to watch. Kind of liked it. It was crazy. I came down to the last play, one of the last plays, and Bo Nix scored that touchdown. He looked pretty solid for a freshman quarterback. Wouldn't you agree, Wall?
I would not disagree. Bo Nix kind of surprised me. I didn't expect much out of him, to be honest with you, but he played that game. I mean, that was a big game, first game of the season. He played it like I would say, a junior or senior.
I mean, he missed some throws for sure, but he did the right things at the right time. Threw the ball away, and just looked like a mature for his freshman. So, a lot of good games last week. That was a lot of fun. Couple games coming up this week, boys and girls. LSU 6, Texas 9. Get some ranked versus ranked action, huh, Walt? 6:30 p.m. on ABC. It's the game day location this week.
Two top 10 teams. Hook 'em horns, baby. It's going to be exciting. SEC versus Big 12. Probably the top 5 for sure SEC team, probably third ranked SEC team. And then Texas right there in Big 12 with Oklahoma, ranked 1 or 2, however you rank them. It's going to be exciting. SEC Big 12, baby.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Texas, just for a little, I just was looking up some stats here. They're the underdogs at home, by the way. Underdogs at home. LSU's getting favored. I think it's 6.5. Texas is 5-0-1 against the spread as an underdog since 2015, and they went 5-1 last year versus ranked opponents, and then they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So I mean that's pretty cool. Some stats. It's good news for Texas, I guess, right?
It's very good news. They need this game, though. It's a big game. Aside from Oklahoma, who they play every year, the Red River Shootout, or rivalry, if you can actually say the word. No big games other than that this year. West Virginia, USC last year, really they didn't play anybody last year except for Georgia. So this is huge for them.
Yeah, it is a big game for sure. Another one, Texas A&M, who's ranked 12th, at Clemson, who's obviously ranked number 1. 2:30 on ABC. Clemson kind of put a whomping on Georgia Tech last weekend, so we'll see how that goes. Lawrence did throw 2 picks in that game. Someone tried to point that out to me the other day, but I think the ending score was almost 60 to almost nothing. So I mean, yeah, he was just throwing the ball a lot. It's gonna happen, right?
It is. You get enough attempts, you're going to have an interception. I mean, I don't think they're too worried about that against Georgia Tech. They prefer to sling it against them. Then they get a little stiff for competition. They maybe tone it back a little, but at least he'll be prepared, the long hair that is.
First team in 2 years that proves Clemson can be beaten?
We'll see. I mean, they're obviously undefeated last year. Like you said, week 1 this year, they just dominated. Aside from Syracuse, there's really going to be nobody else that can beat them this year aside from a fluke game. So we'll see. I think it might be the only team that has a chance to beat them this year until playoff time.
Yeah, I want to see a fight in that game, to be honest, because, I mean, I don't dislike Clemson at all, but I don't get to watch a lot of their games, or I shouldn't say that. I don't watch a lot of their games early on in the season, so I kind of just think they're overrated, especially from their schedule. So I'd like them playing an SEC team who's ranked number 12, and I mean Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher. I mean they can come out slinging.
Hey, you're saying you want to see a fight. Obviously, you're talking figuratively. You want to see a game, I'm assuming, right, Woj?
Yeah, not a literal boxing match.
Well, I want to see a literal boxing match. We got Dabo Swinney versus Jimbo Fisher. I mean, these are 2 big dogs going at each other. It's going to be exciting to see those coaches against each other, especially I wish it was a night game because Clemson has an awesome tradition of driving the buses around the stadium at night. But nonetheless, we're going to get to watch them run down the ramp and touch the rock. It's going to be really exciting, those 2 coaches especially.
Yeah, I mean Texas A&M only won or lost by 2 last year, so we'll see what happens this year. Maybe they give them a better fight. How about USC and Stanford, Wall?
Yeah, it's a game I thought we had to talk about. I mean, it's the closest spread game of the week. It's a 1-point game as of now, anyways, as we're recording the episode. But it's definitely the most even matchup of the week. I think when you see that, it's just a game you want to watch. I don't know that it deserves to be a 1-point game. Stanford being home definitely helps even the skew. But JT Daniels, how about that, Woj? That's not good for USC. Maybe part of the spread.
Yeah, it's big news and not good for people with him on their fantasy team.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll go over that again in fantasy, but that could be part of the problem for the spread being closer than I would think it should be. But I mean, this game, you got to watch it. You got USC at Stanford, two Pac-12 teams. People don't like to watch the Pac-12 because it's late. Stay up, watch this one. It is a late game, but it might be worth it.
Daily fantasy for the week. Kind of excited for this week. I was looking at some lineups, putting some lineups in, and I was feeling good about a lot of different lineups. So I'm excited for this week. Couple things I just want to go over with you guys on how I pick. We kind of do a little segment of this every week, or just to educate you on how to make an educated team. A lot of people just go out there and they start picking players. What did this guy do? Oh, this guy looked good last week. Well, is he going to do good this week? What does he do? So I break it down into three people. The best player, the best play. So the best play, that means usually a lot of money. It's usually the higher over-under games, typically a QB in an air raid offense or one that's a large dual threat. Say, uh, it depends on who you're picking. There could be a wide receiver. It's very unlikely, or it could be a running back if it's somebody like Jeremy Taylor, but typically it's a quarterback. So the best play, there's a value. So that's the value player that, I kind of mark my guys on my DraftKings teams as like 3.8. If they can score 3.8 points per $1,000, they usually have made their value. So if you can get guys like value players that are making 4 points per 1,000, that's awesome. So if all of your players make 4 points per $1,000, that's 200 points if you spend the full 50K on DraftKings. That will typically put you in the top 100 on a big game one. I mean, for instance, last week's it was 235, I think, was the winner. So if you can get that 4 point value guy, that 4 point per 1,000 points, you're doing really good. So I'm always looking for value guys, and then there's sleepers. Sleepers are the way to win money, and they're also the way to lose money. Because there's some sleepers that just don't pan out. Hey, Keelan Robinson last week, I'll fess up. I told everybody to pick him because he was going to get playing time, and he had the other two running backs. They were going to get suspended for the first half. Well, guess what? Saban threw me a loop, and he put him in the first quarter. So that didn't pan out very well. But that's where you make your money. Hey, I had Keelan Robinson. He was a sleeper. Didn't win me money. He lost me money that week. So you always have to balance it out. Your sleepers, your value players, and your best play. You usually always want one best play in your team and a bunch of value guys. So another thing to think about is don't be scared of the teams you don't know. So if there's an 11-team contest or 11-game contest, and there's, say, two people from the ACC that you've never seen ever play in your life, and there's a bunch of guys you have no idea, don't be afraid to pick up those guys. Do a little research on the game and see what's happening. See what those guys are going to, what the defenses are going to expect, what's the over-under, see what the potential receivers are. Do your research. Don't be afraid to pick up those guys, because I know a lot of people just kind of like scan over those guys, and it ends up the guy that wins the whole DraftKings contest has a bunch of those guys in his team because no one picked them up. So always look over those guys and be educated on those games. So I got a couple picks here I just want to go over. I got my best play, my value guy, and my sleeper. I'm doing the DraftKings Saturday 11 gamer. My best play is Kelly Bryant. So he's not the most expensive player. He's only 7,700 this week, but he is 423 yards last week in week one. And then this week they're going to play. West Virginia's coming to them. So West Virginia, who's one of the worst defenses last year in college football, by the way, gave up 267.9 yards in the air last year, and their completions per game were somewhere around like 30 or something like that against. So they're playing a terrible defense. Missouri did lose against their team did lose their game last week, but Kelly Bryant still played well. So I would expect Kelly Bryant still put up a bunch of numbers. He is basically their offense. So he is going to get a lot of points. I think that's your best play for sure. And if it's not your best play, he's going to be a good value. I'm certain of that at 7,700. My value guy, though, is Elijah Sindarl. Wahl, help me out with that one.
Sindelar,
Purdue's
Woj.
quarterback?
Sindelar.
Sindelar.
I
Elijah
know Purdue's
Sindelar from
quarterback. Come on.
Purdue. He's 7,500 on DraftKings. He's my value pick of the week. So huge game versus Nevada last week. 52 pass attempts
Exciting.
for 423 yards. 52, Wall, from a Big Ten team.
Loving it, baby. That's Sindelar right there.
They are playing a tough game this week. They're playing Vanderbilt, but even if they're down, they're going to keep slinging it. So I think he's your best value play. If they're going to pass it that much, he's going to get points that are going to outweigh his 7,500. Which doesn't even need touchdowns at that point to get to that number. He just needs to complete a couple passes and get some yards. So we'll see how he does this week, but that's my value pick of the week. He's one of those guys that just keep it simple. He's going to score some points, especially when they're passing it that much. My last guy, my sleeper, and this one's a little weird. Demetric Felton. He's UCLA running back with a question mark. He's 4,500 on DraftKings. So the interesting thing is, last week he was listed on as a wide receiver, and Chip Kelly's the coach over at UCLA now, and he listed him as wide receiver, but used him as a running back a lot too. So he was catching passes. He ran the ball a couple times too. I think his passing, he caught 2 passes for 91 yards, which was huge. I mean, but now the thing is, Chip Kelly confirmed that he will be in the backfield this week for San Diego State as the backup, which it's weird. I don't know. But he ran and received last week for 24 points. Again, if we're looking at those numbers, 4 points per 1,000, he's made over his value at 4,500, making 25 points last week. So we'll see how it goes. He is marked as a running or wide receiver on DraftKings, but he is going to play running back. So we'll see if it pans out. Could be a trap like last week's Alabama mess up with Keelan Robinson, but it's just one of those sleepers. It's 4,500. You're not losing much if he doesn't do much because you're going to spend that money elsewhere. But it looks like they're going to use him in the passing game at some point, especially as a running back. They'll probably have him in for pass plays. So we'll see what happens from there.
So, Woj, you set your lineup here. You obviously said you're doing the 11 game morning. Is it the morning? That's you're gonna.
Yes, the morning. After they call them afternoon games and then the evening games, but afternoon Saturday 11.
So how much, if you have a good day and you do well in that tournament, how much do you think you're going to make?
If you do well, really it all depends, Wall, because there's so many different contests. There's so many different amounts of players that are in it. So the Saturday 11 game isn't just one contest. It's a magnitude of contests. They'll have hundreds of them out there. You can get ones with only 10 people. You can get ones with, I think the big one this week has a cap of 11.5 thousand. I think that's a $15 game. But I mean, if you're realistically looking to win the big games, I mean, you're looking at over tens of thousands of dollars winning a DraftKings like that. So that's, I mean, especially the $15 one. But again, like I said, there's $100 ones, there's $1 ones. I think there's even 50-cent ones. So you literally can play in any of those. There might even be a quarter one in college football. I know in the NFL they do that every now and then. So it could be a quarter game as well. So don't be, throw a quarter down if you're not sure this week, or if you just want to play around and have fun. You'll still win some money. Usually in those 10-game contests, it just pays out equal amounts to the top 5 players. So you just have to finish in the top 50%. So that's kind of fun thing about the smaller contests. And then there's obviously the bigger contests where you're going against a more wide variety of players. And, to be honest, when it comes down to it, you're playing against a lot of, pros, guys that have hundreds of lineups in the same contest. If you're worried about playing against a lot of pros and putting a bunch of lineups in, there is some lineups and some, DraftKings games within that Saturday 11 game where they limit the amount of entries to like 1 or 2. So that, that kind of, the pros stay away from that one. They're like, well, I don't want to get in that one because I limit my chances at winning. So if you're worried about trying to play against professionals, if you're newer into this, look for the ones that only allow one entry into the event. There are usually only a couple hundred people in those, but it just keeps it simple. You don't have to be afraid about, one guy having, 1,000 different entries in the same DraftKings lineup. So
Well, our listeners, they should have plenty of money to put a little bit on DraftKings this week, Woj, because last week was a good week for us, if I do say so. We actually ended up hitting 100%, Woj, 100% on our games. Can you
that's
believe that?
that's good. It's good.
It's,
That's money.
it's real good. It's money in our pockets. I hope the listeners are happy, but you can't always expect to win every game. That's something I want to stress. You're always going to have to expect to lose some. It's just the way it works. You won't win them all. That's the difference. The sharps and professionals, they really understand this. The guppies, they expect to win every time, and then when that doesn't happen and they get hit in the face, it's a problem for them. If you're a newcomer, you just listen to us for the first time, getting your feet wet. To be honest, you want to shoot for just getting over 50%. That's if you get over 50%, you're doing pretty well. 52.4% is the break even. That makes a lot of assumptions, but 52.4%, you hit that, you're breaking even. So that's a good thing to shoot for if you're new to gambling, that is sports gambling. But having said that, last week Oklahoma State, Colorado, Michigan State, Georgia, they all covered, Woj. It was a beautiful thing. We were partying, weren't we?
Yeah, no, it was good. And again, like you emphasized, you're not going to win every game. Only bet what you can. Have that extra side table on the side just if you need to, put some extras down. And hey, one of these weeks we got to go over hedging, Wall, because I want to learn about hedging, especially second half bets.
Oh, hedging. That'll be something. Second half, in live game betting, they're tough to talk about ahead of time because you never know what's going to happen. But hedging is a key strategy. But luckily last week we didn't have to worry about that at all. Maybe next week we'll talk a little about hedging. This week we got some straight up games though I want you guys to look at. No hedging needed. Ohio State at Cincinnati. I mean, this game, the line opened, Ohio State giving up 17, dropped down to 15.5, which is a good size move for a spread. When it's around 17, dropping to 15.5, it's not a tearjerker by any means, but it is a good size move. Cincinnati, whoever watched them last week, they're a very respectable team. They played very well against UCLA. I think they're going to do very good this year. Michael Warren, running back, Desmond Ridder, quarterback. Their solid defense, like I said, held UCLA to 2 touchdowns. Possibly the best of the Group 6. I think they might turn out to be the best of the Group 6, but we're definitely going to find out when they play UCF in a few weeks. Line moves to 14. I think this is a must bet. I don't know if you're going to get it, but the way the line's moving, you might. Apparently people are jumping on Cincinnati. I think as much as I've talked about Cincinnati and how good they are, I think the line moves to 14. You fade Cincinnati, to be honest with you. Take Ohio State. Give up the points at 14. Maryland, Syracuse. Another big game, Woj. We got a ACC team versus a Big Ten team. Not the best teams in each conference by any means, but Maryland.
Well, how many points did Maryland score last week?
They scored 79 points. It's kind of a misnomer, though, because they played Howard. Obviously, Howard is not – I don't want to disrespect Howard, but they're not to the level that, an FBS team is. But 79 points, that's a lot of points, Woj. A lot of points.
I want to remember that. I want to remember that number when college basketball starts and see if Maryland in their first game scores 79 points.
That'll be something to check out. You think we're actually going to remember that? Can you set a series?
I'll make sure. I'm going to see if there's a futures bet on that, actually.
There might be. With all these offshores, they might have a futures bet on that. But in this game, Maryland is only given 1.5. They're given 1.5. They just got done scoring 79 points. That kind of makes me laugh. What good is 1.5 when you scored 79 points your last game? But I think I'd be looking to Syracuse on the money line. Screw the points. What good is the points going to do? I'm going to fade the hype. Plus 110 Syracuse on the money line. Something definitely to look at. I mentioned before that 52.4% is your break-even mark. You get that many games correct, you're going to break even. If you do plus 110, you only need to win 48% of your games. So whenever you see a plus 110 like that and you just want to take the money line, go for it. You don't have to win as often when you hit those plus 110s. Like I said, the 52.4% kind of assumes a minus 110 every time, and that's also makes some other assumptions. But hey, you see that one plus 110, hit it. I'm going to do it just to fade the hype. I really don't think that Maryland is that great. I think that Howard, did not have a good week by any means, and Maryland had a great week. So That's where I'm looking to go this week. I think the line might be a little inaccurate and misrepresenting of what that point spread should actually be.
Yeah, I mean, they scored 79 points. I mean, they're going to jump on that and be like, oh, Maryland must be really good. They played Howard. I've been a Big Ten fan my whole life. I know Maryland, their offense can be pretty good at some times, but once they play a team that has at least some competent corners, like they're not going to be able to do the things they did against Howard.
No, agreed, 100%. And Syracuse, they're not a great team by any means, but they're a respectable team. They almost beat Clemson 2 years in a row now. I'm going with Syracuse on the money line. I gotta look at it at least. Georgia Tech, another team. They're giving South Florida 6.5. Georgia Tech's somewhat similar to Wisconsin. They bleed that clock, run oriented. The only exception being Georgia Tech runs an option game, but still, that comes to part of bleeding the clock and run oriented. The under over opened at 59.5. I'm looking to hit the under here, 61.5. Quick rundown of a couple other games I'll be looking at. Don't know if I'll be dropping any action or not, but Nebraska -4.5. They got the rust off week one. They didn't look good at all. It's time to play. I'd look at that one. I'd look at it good. Appalachian State -22.5 at Charlotte. They won last year by 36, covered by more than 3 touchdowns. They covered the spread by more than 3 touchdowns, Woj. That's quite incredible. App State, they put up points. Coastal Carolina at Kansas. Hey, let's go crazy and take the money line. +240. See what happens. Kansas hasn't been playing that well. Coastal Carolina, respectable team. I don't know that they're going to win, but I don't think that this line is accurate. I think it's a little off. I'm going to take the +240 and hope I get one of those, 1 of 3 occurrences on my side.
I got a buddy that will be ecstatic that you're taking Coastal Carolina on the money line. He'll be ecstatic, and it's not Tyler Thigpen, who was a quarterback for Coastal a long time ago, but yeah, he'll be excited. He listens to this podcast, so maybe he'll jump on that bandwagon.
He better. Is he alum or just a fan?
Alum.
Oh, he better be jumping on this. +240. Put your house on it. I'm telling you, Coastal Carolina, Kansas, you got to take a shot. Also, if you got a little left over, maybe don't put the whole house on it, but save some for Washington. Over 44.5. Eason, Washington's quarterback, might get 44.5 on his own, if not his whole team getting 44.5. So just take the over in that game. I think Washington themselves is going to be the ones that cover that 44.5 over. Something to look at anyways. I'm not positive I'll be putting money on it, but something to look at.
Yeah, maybe just put the swing set on that one.
The swing set. There you go. I like that one. Put the swing set and save the house for the Coastal Carolina, right?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Wahl, we talked about it earlier in the USC Stanford game. JT Daniels is out for the year in fantasy. So if you got him on your team, put him on the IR or drop him because he's out for the year.
Hey, fortunately, I'm not the fool that has him in our league because I wouldn't want to have him right now. That's a tough break because he was looking real good week one.
Hey, John Wasnick from Western Michigan, their quarterback. How about him, Wahl?
Wasink is unbelievable.
Wasink. All these names.
Yeah, I know. Names aren't your strong suit, Woj. But Wasink, he is just incredible. I've watched, what I do is throughout the week, I watch replays of some of the games I don't catch. Obviously, Western Michigan, Monmouth is not a game that I'm going to watch on a Saturday, but I watched the replay. And when I watched the replay, I was really impressed by this guy. Looking through fantasy football, he is really underrated. He can put up some points, I think, this year. He's had some injuries in the past, which might be limiting him, but this kid's smart, too. He graduated with a 3.96 grade point average. He's obviously earning his master's now so he can continue to play football, but smart kid, translates to the field. He's great at reading the coverages. You watch him, he knows if they got to cover 2, cover 3, knows what he's going to do with the ball right away, just waits for the receivers to get in position. Obviously, with that intelligence comes 0 interceptions. You do not want to turn the ball over. Just shy of 100 passing rating, Woj. Just shy of 100 passing rating.
He had 80% completion. I mean, that's
he did.
That's pretty high, Wahl.
It's pretty high when you're slinging the ball. He had 25 attempts and 368 yards. So, yeah, that is pretty high. Again, they didn't play a great team, but still, even when you're not playing a great team, you miss throws like that. This guy didn't. I recommend anybody goes and watch the replay of that game, but this weekend they got a tough game against Michigan State. I don't know about that, but maybe pick them up and sit them if you have to. If you have a chance, turn the game on. 6:30 Big Ten Network. Watch a couple series of this guy. He's the real deal.
Yeah. Another thing is we talked about last week a little bit, Wahl, is swapping defenses for people that against teams that aren't that good. How about Utah this week, playing a less than impressive NIU team?
Less than impressive is correct. Coming out of the MAC, NIU's not looking that great this year. They weren't that great last year either, and especially when they played Utah. Utah defense shut them down last year. I mean, that was a very low-scoring game altogether, but Utah's defense definitely somebody to look at. Maybe pick them up if you have the opportunity. They're pretty stout. Average points against last year against Utah, that is, was 20, and that was in the Pac-12. You got some gunslingers out there. It's no Big 12, but still, you got some people that are putting points on the board. They gave up less than 2 touchdowns last week to BYU. Idaho State next week. Utah, they're a defense to look at. Even after Idaho State and NIU this week, there's somebody you might keep in your lineup just because they're good.
And again, like I said, always be playing those defenses. I do it pretty much throughout the year. I don't really usually hold on to the defenses all that often. I'll play matchups and see how it goes.
Well, it makes sense for this week because their matchup is pretty easy and cupcake like NIU. Although I do like NIU, they're one of my favorite teams.
Hey everyone, enjoy the games this weekend. Enjoy winning some more money, hopefully.
Nope.
And
Nope. You're not getting out of it. Hey.
Okay. All right. I'll go back. I lost last week, everyone. I lost. I thought I could squeak by it there, but I lost.
What are you talking about?
So last week in the Woj and Wahl pick'em, I had Duke minus 33.5, getting the 33.5, and it almost came true until the last quarter, or until Saban ended up putting everybody in. In the first half, they even played strong against all the full starters that he brought in that were supposed to be suspended for the first half. But yeah, again, Saban threw me for a loop, and it is what it is. I lost, and Wahl won with Georgia getting minus 21. So they're giving 21, and he ended up winning that. It was one of the picks in the gambling session. So what's your pick this week, Wahl?
Well, this week, I'll tell you what we're going to win. We're going to win the Georgia Tech under 61.5. I mentioned it before. I'm going to put my money on the line here, Woj. That's going to be my pick 'em for the week.
Hey, listen, Texas at home since 2005 is 5-0-1 against the spread when the underdog. I'm taking Texas plus 6.5. Listen, they always play tough, especially on national television, especially in big game. They're going to make it tight if they do lose. I think they definitely cover the spread. I almost wanted to pick them on the money line, but hey, I got to get a win here. So we're going to take the plus 6.5. I'll take Texas.
Hey, Woj, I'm going to be torn in this game because obviously I want you to lose so that I win. But I'm a Texas boy. I'm a Longhorn fan for sure. And I also have a futures bet on LSU. So I'm really torn in this game. Whichever way it goes, I'm excited to see it, and I'm happy to see it. So, Woj, I hope you win this week. I'm going to say that on air.
Hey, everyone heard that now. Everyone heard that. You can just give me the win now if you'd like.
No, you're not going to win. Sorry.
All right. So the overall right now, the overall is 1-0, Kyle, over Woj. We'll see how it goes from there. But hey, everyone, again, have a great weekend. Enjoy the games coming up here Friday, Saturday. For all you NFL people, enjoy the games on Sunday and Monday. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at WWCFB. You can go to our website at collegefootballrundown.com. Thanks again for listening. I'm Woj.
I'm Wahl.
And this was the College Football Rundown.